Hello, Mr. Bannon. Can you hear me?
I can hear you perfectly.
Oh, thank you so much. I can hear you perfectly too. So let's go. Hello, guys. Good luck. Oh, you look so handsome.
Thank you, Dr. Ming. That's why I love being on your show.
Oh, thank
I
you
don't,
so
I don't,
much.
I don't get that from my people in the war room.
Oh, you look young and very handsome and very energetic. Perfect. In perfect shape. Okay. Shall we begin now, guys? I think they will play an intro. Hello, and welcome to Go Library, Himalaya, UK. This is Dr. Ming. Today, I'm going to inquire some issues about the US presidential election. My guest is our old friend, our fellow warrior, and our hero, Mr. Stephen K. Bannon. Hello, Mr. Bannon.
Dr. Ming,
Hello.
thank you for having me on the show, Dr. Ming.
Thank you so much. How are you?
Fine.
Okay, let's begin. Um, how do you define the US presidential election 2020? Is it a bipartisan power struggle, or is it a conflict between communism and capitalism?
Well, it's certainly a conflict between capitalism and freedom as we know it, and as I think the diaspora of Chinese throughout the world aspire to, in what is certainly cultural Marxism. And I believe strongly, Dr. Ming, as we get to the bottom of how the Biden forces have stolen this election or tried to steal it, I think we're going to see many of the CCP and others that are aligned against the freedom of Lao Beijing and the deplorables are lined up in back of this. So I don't think this is a conspiracy. I think this is, like I say, there's no conspiracies, but there are also no coincidences. And I think you're going to see that the forces of cultural Marxism are aligned with what's trying to take down President Trump.
Do you think the CCP's interference in the US election is part of an unrestricted warfare? If so, what typical elements have you spotted?
Well, listen, Dr. Li Ming Yan is a believer that, strong believer, as I know Miles is and others, that the CCP virus is part of a biological weapons program that they deliberately let onto the world. And so that was the biggest part of unrestricted warfare. I'm a believer that it's part of a bioweapon program in a gain of function experiment that went awry. But either way, it was part of the CCP's biological weapons program that they should not have and by treaty should not be involved in. I also think that that what they've done, I think direct involvement in the U.S. election, and I think you're going to see it through. I think it's going to be through this computer system that we're going to see the CCP is somehow involved with this. And I think we're doing the research right now, doing discovery on this right now. The Chinese Communist Party wants to stop Donald J. Trump, just like they want to stop the whistleblower movement, like they want to stop the new federal state of China, like they want to stop War Room, like they want to stop Miles Guo. They are against anybody or anything that stands up for the citizens of China, that stands up for the Chinese people to be free.
On the 14th November, about 500,000 people participated in March for Trump in Washington, D.C. and across 50 states. Do you view such rallies as a populist campaign?
I think it was huge. And not just the 500,000, Dr. Ming. We also had here the new federal state of China and the whistleblower movement were part of that march and had their own side demonstration all day and then joined in to march around Washington, D.C. It was incredibly powerful. There were groups like that from throughout the world that kind of came together. I think you're seeing the beginning of a worldwide populist movement of which the new federal state of China is part of. And so I just think it was an amazing outpouring. I think it also sent a message to Antifa, a message to the radical elements of Black Lives Matter, to all the cultural Marxists, and to everybody the CCP funds and supports, that the little guy the free men and women of the United States and their allies are going to stand up to this. So I think 14 November is going to go down as a very important day in the history of this movement.
My school predicted that the solution to voting fraud would rely not only on the Supreme Court, but also on the legislature. What do you think?
Absolutely. I think this is coming down. Here's the reason. I think because of the CCP's involvement in this Dominion Software's involvement, I think you're going to see through the court case that Rudy Giuliani is going to argue in federal court on Thursday. I don't believe that the vote can be certified. Remember, in the United States, it's not the news media that has any power to call anything. Really, it's the certification by the secretaries of states of the individual states. And then the state legislatures get involved. I don't believe that you're going to be able to see the secretaries of state certify this vote, because I think these are illegal, uncertifiable ballots. I don't believe the state legislatures will even put up their own slates of electors, which would be Trump electors. I think that on the 14th of December, the Electoral College, as I see it right now, the Electoral College will meet in the 50 state capitals, and there will not be enough certified electors from states to get to 270 votes. And that means this gets kicked into Congress. This gets kicked to the House of Representatives in January. And I think that's where President Trump will finally be, he's already voted on November 3rd by the American people. He'll be reaffirmed by Congress in January.
So now let's talk something happening here in Europe, and UK. What is your comment on Boris Johnson congratulating Joe Biden for his half-claimed and media proclaimed victory for the election?
Despicable. And I think Boris Johnson's brother, his father, I think Boris Johnson's family is like the Biden family. They're completely sold out to the CCP. He let Dominic Cummings go the other day because his fiance is another left-wing, person that I think is very open to CCP involvement. His brother's a consultant. I think his father's taking money from him. He's just like Boris Johnson is just like the Biden family. I believe they've been compromised by the CCP. I think his congratulations immediately before any certification, any vote was despicable. And I think it shows you the problem not having Nigel Farage as the prime minister and having the Tory party elect someone who's just a complete middle of the roader, fellow traveler like Boris Johnson.
Given the threat posed by the CCP, what is your advice to the British audience and the government?
I think the British people have to be on constant watch. And I think particularly as this whole situation with the Tories, they're doing a terrible job of closing on the Brexit deal. I think you have to be very careful of what the elites and the aristocracy in the United Kingdom is going to try to lead the British nation in. I would hope that working class and middle class people in the United Kingdom understand that what the diaspora of the Chinese are fighting and what the United States are fighting with our friends and brethren in Lao Beijing and Old Hundred Names is freedom and a fair deal and a piece of the action for the little guy. And as you have these globalists, right, the party at Davos, in partnership with the Chinese Communist Party in Beijing, you have to be very careful. And so I think we're going into very, very treacherous times right now. And I would tell all my brothers in the United Kingdom to be on watch. Don't believe what the media is telling you. Remember, I think it's CGTV, the international arm of CCTV, of the propaganda channel, is actually headquartered in London. It's headquartered in London for a reason. They understand the respect the world has for the British people. They understand that London is one of the great cities in the world. And they put their main international propaganda arm right there, staffed by many people who used to work at BBC. I think every citizen of the United Kingdom that cherishes their freedom and cherishes freedom of other working class people throughout the world have to be very careful and on watch of what the British elites are trying to sell you.
We all know that the U.S. Secretary of State, Mike Pompeo, is visiting Europe. Do you expect his visit would change the pro-Biden stances of the heads of states?
I think, look, you have many populist leaders over there that support President Trump. But let's be frank. All the key heads in Germany, France, the United Kingdom, Italy, right now, they're globalist. And they support the party of Davos. They support Brussels. So they want to be in business with the CCP. I think Mike Pompeo is going to have a very difficult time because they want Trump gone. Remember, Trump is the one that's made them step up and start to pay for their national defense. Trump is the one that's cutting tougher trade deals. Trump has done something to really, he believes in the nation state. He believes in the Treaty of Westphalia, the Westphalian system. And these individuals don't. They're globalists. And so certainly they want a globalist, and particularly they want a weak, what the CCP in Europe wants is a weak globalist. And so what they have in the United States now is globalist around Biden, and Biden is kind of a feckless old man. And so for them, it's perfect. It's absolutely perfect for the Beijing, and it's perfect for many of our supposed allies in Europe.
Mm. And I'd like to talk something about President Trump himself. Yeah, my school is extremely concerned about the safety of President Trump, as he knows that the CCP will take exhaustive means to destroy him. So, what is your advice?
I agree with Miles. I think he's got to be. I think he's got to be very careful. You know, it was just announced the other day. I think it's 130 Secret Service agents have the CCP virus. We know that. And Miles is a believer, and I'm kind of a believer because I don't see anything. I don't see the other evidence right now, but it's very strong. He believes that a super spreader was put into the Rose Garden for a glorious ACB's announcement, right? Justice Barrett, and where so many people got sick. Remember, Dave Bossie, who was supposed to be heading up the legal fight, got the CCP virus. I think Corey Lewandowski's got the CCP virus. His chief of staff has CCP virus. And so you have to be very careful. I think we got to be very careful about President Trump's health. And I would really be on watch right now because I think the CCP, the Chinese Communist Party, is at full all out on unrestricted warfare. And that means individuals that try to stand up to them, organizations like the whistleblower movement, people like Dr. Yan and others associated with the whistleblower movement, their families in mainland China. I think that people associated with the new federal state, the fantastic, heroic Mr. Han and his wife out of Spain that have been so amazing in showing leadership in the new federal state, and others, I think have to be very, very careful. You know, the new federal state in Luda with Dr. Yan came here and broadcast for a week during the election and did an amazing job. But I was very concerned for their safety at that time. So I think people have to be very, very careful. The Chinese Communist Party is ruthless. The Chinese Communist Party is bloodthirsty. The Chinese Communist Party does not care who they destroy. They will not let anybody stand in their way. And I want to particularly give a warning to all our brothers and sisters of Chinese descent because they consider you to be apostates. And that's the worst thing you can be. And so I think right now is a very, very dangerous time, and we have to be on watch.
And in a discussion we had back in mid-October, you said this election only started on the 3rd November and would not end till the 19th January 2021. What made you say that? And has what happened since the 3rd November verified your expectation?
That was a pretty good call, wasn't it? No, because I knew that President Trump was going to win. And I knew that the forces arraigned against him, led by the Chinese Communist Party and their running dogs, were going to try to steal it. So that's why I kept telling people, don't think that November 3rd is the end. Don't think we're going to be popping champagne that night because you're not. And quite frankly, one of the mistakes President Trump made, I think, was not claiming the victory early enough in the evening, but waiting and giving his enemies a chance to kind of steal a march on him. So November 3rd, as I said, is just one day. The only day that matters is his inauguration day. And we have a lot of very tough road to cover. This is a very tough fight, a very tough fight. They have the media. They have the tech oligarchs who are in business with the CCP.
Yes.
They have, they have Wall Street. They have the corporations. They have the City of London. They have many global corporations. They have Davos. They have the heads of many of the European governments. Everybody wants Trump gone. And why they want Trump gone? Because they realize he was a strong leader that stood up for the deplorables, and he stood up for the little guy in China. He stood up for the little guy in Hong Kong. And they don't want that. They want him gone. And like I said back in May, November 3rd is just one part of the process. You're going to see it, and it's going to play out in real time. This is real history being made every day.
Is there any other issue you'd like to address?
Well, I think this is the issue. I think this is the issue, Dr. Ming, that unites all freedom-loving people throughout the world. You know, President Trump, as I've said, not only was this the most important election in American history, this is the most important election in 5,000 years of Chinese history. You know, everything hangs in the balance. If President Trump, if the election stolen from President Trump, I think we've done a very good job of boxing in Biden and these globalists so that they can't have free reign to cut deals with the CCP. However, if President Trump, if this election is stolen from him, we're going to have a very tough time in the next couple of years taking down the CCP. If President Trump claims his rightful victory and is inaugurated on the 20th, I actually agree with Miles Groh. I think the days of the CCP are numbered, and that's why they're fighting so hard. That's why they're using unrestricted warfare. And that's why I think it's a particularly dangerous time for Chinese nationals. I think it's particularly dangerous times for the diaspora, all the Chinese brothers and sisters throughout the world. I think now, because they will do anything to make sure that Trump is not inaugurated, and if they have to trample over Chinese people to do that, they will. So I think right now is a very dangerous time. We have to be resolved with courage. We have to be resolved with strength. We have to be strong with spiritual energy in order to see this through to the end, because the Chinese Communist Party is our mortal enemy.
Yeah. So thank you so much, Mr. Bannon. It's always a great pleasure to listen to you. So hopefully I will see you soon.
Always an honor,
Thank you so
Dr.
much.
Ming. Thank you so much. Appreciate it.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Ming.
Thank you.